As I mentioned tonight, we're going to start by covering something that should be front page news every single day, Trump's unauthorized war in Iran. We're going to give you the facts, the context, and most importantly, what it means for all of us. And then we're going to pivot to our Trump-induced climate funding emergency and what we can do about it. We covered in a previous meeting US-led regime change all the way from the banana wars up through the attack in Venezuela. And I'm going to put a link to that video in the chat right now if you want to check that one out. But first, let's talk about how did we get here with Iran. You can't understand this war without knowing the history, and it starts with us. For over a century, Western powers have interfered in Iran to protect oil interests. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence overthrew Iran's democratically elected prime minister. All right, folks. So where were we? The CIA and British intelligence overthrew Iran's democratically elected prime minister and reinstalled the Shah, a king, to keep Soviet influence out and oil flowing west. The CIA formally admitted this in 2013. That coup planted seeds of resentment that never stopped growing. Those seeds became the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile, millions filled the streets, and the brutal but pro-Western monarchy was replaced by a brutal theocracy. Women lost rights. Dissidents were executed. Journalists were killed. Universities were ransacked. Iran became the hostile, repressive state it remains today, and we helped create the conditions for it. Fast forward to 2015, President Obama negotiated the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. It cut Iran's centrifuges by 2/3, capped uranium enrichment, and brought in unprecedented international inspectors. Iran's nuclear stockpile dropped from thousands of kilograms to just 300. It was working. But then in 2018, Trump walked away from it, alone, defying our allies in Britain, France, and Germany. Why? Partly to please Netanyahu, partly to erase Obama's legacy. The result, Iran restarted its nuclear program with nothing to lose. By mid-2025, it had stockpiled nearly 10,000 kilograms of enriched uranium, including hundreds of kilograms at near weapons-grade purity. Trump broke the deal, then used Iran's response to it as his justification for war. What actually happened on February 28th this year, Trump announced a massive US-Israeli military attack on Iran with no warning to Congress, no declaration of war, and no imminent threat. He posted an 8-minute video on social media calling the Iranian people to overthrow their government. Here's what the intelligence actually said. In March 2025, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard herself testified that the U.S. intelligence community assessed that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. There was no imminent attack on U.S. allies. There was no countdown to a bomb. Trump struck because Iran's government looked weak and he saw an opportunity. Here's where things stand right now today. Iran has been firing back hard, hitting U.S. bases in Qatar, striking Gulf nations, including Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, and launching missiles at Tel Aviv. There's been a ceasefire attempt that is fragile at best. Khomeini, Iran's supreme leader, has been killed in an Israeli strike, but his death has not ended the conflict. It may deepen it. The war is active, escalating, and there's no exit plan. Was this legal? No. International law allows a country to strike first only when an attack is genuinely imminent. Think missiles already in the air. What Trump did is called a preventative war, hitting a weaker country because he might consider them a future threat. That's the same justification Russia used to invade Ukraine. It's widely considered illegal under international law, and Trump never sought congressional approval, which the Constitution requires. Senator Tim Kaine has forced a war powers vote, but Senate Republicans unfortunately blocked it. Knowing that there was no imminent threat, what word best describes how this war makes you feel? Angry, scared, exhausted, unsurprised. Just type it in the chat. Scared for my stepson, who is in active duty military, horrified, pissed off, all of the above. See a lot of all of the above. Give me 1 second. I have to go off camera and I'll be right back. All right. Thank you all for being patient. So part 3, who benefits? And why do we strike now? This is the question that historians will be asking for decades, and the media is demanding answers, but not getting many. If there was no imminent threat, why did Trump act now? So let's watch Marco Rubio's initial response. Let me share this with you real quick.
Why now? Well, there's 2 reasons why now.
MAGA is
The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's 2 reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. And in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back to the second question that's been asked.
Right. So Israel benefits most directly. Netanyahu has wanted to neutralize Iran for years. Iran funds Hezbollah, calls for Israel's destruction, and is the last major regional power capable of challenging Israeli dominance. And Netanyahu, who's facing serious domestic political pressure, has long benefited from a national security crisis that keeps Israelis afraid and keeps them in power. As reported by PBS, Netanyahu said Sunday in a statement that the U.S. involvement allows us to do what I have been hoping to do for 40 years, to deliver a crushing blow to the terror regime. And he also mentioned having Trump as a partner in this. The Arab states in the Gulf also stand to gain from Iran's destabilization, and they have been extraordinarily generous to Trump's family. Jared Kushner secured a multi-billion-dollar deal with Gulf investors in 2021, and Qatar gifted Trump a luxury plane. The money flows are well documented. This is also the distraction factor. As we all know, Trump has ongoing legal exposure from the Epstein files and other scandals, and a war is the oldest distraction in politics. And then there's the arrogance factor. Trump apparently believed this would be quick and easy, like Venezuela, where the government had already quietly agreed to hand over its leader. Iran is a different story. Its military is sophisticated, its power structure is deeply embedded, its people, even those who despise the government, have reason to rally when a foreign power bombs their country. Trump fired his best military advisors, and he's not listening to the ones who remain. Please type your answer in the chat. Who do you think bears the most responsibility for this war? Trump, Netanyahu, Congress for not stopping it, or someone else? Trump, MAGA. Israel, all of the above. Netanyahu, both. Looks like there are a lot of all of the above. Trump and Israel, the entire tyrannical regime. All right, this is what we know. Current military escalation was not preceded by evidence of an imminent attack. Regional politics, domestic politics, and long-term rivalries all shape this moment. According to Crooked Media, the drones Iran is using to target U.S. bases in the region cost about $20,000. The missiles we're using to intercept them before they explode on target cost at least $1 billion, and our stock of those missiles is running low. 6 U.S. soldiers have been killed. Israel bombed a girls' school and killed up to 175 people. That number comes from Iranian state media, so we should be skeptical of it, but the videos of the attack and the aftermath are all over social media. The U.S. started a war without an evacuation plan for thousands of Americans in the Middle East. Pete Hegseth said, "This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change." From CNBC, Trump pivoted from saying the goal was regime change to saying the objectives were destroying Iran's missile capabilities, annihilating its navy, preventing it from obtaining a nuclear weapon, and stopping it from funding terrorist proxies, notably not addressing the issue of regime change at all after speaking about it extensively. Um, uh, Sorry. When asked by ABC News who might lead Iran after Khamenei's death, Trump said the strikes were so successful they killed most of the candidates. Quote, the attack was so successful it knocked out most of the candidates. It's not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they are all dead. Great plan. According to Wikipedia and CBS News, Trump spoke by phone with Kurdish leaders in Iraq a day after the bombing campaign began to discuss the war and what might come next. The CIA is also working to arm Kurdish forces with the aim of fomenting a popular uprising in Iran, with Iranian Kurdish armed groups expected to take part in a ground operation in western Iran in the coming days. Analysts warn this could fuel domestic conflict inside Iran by pitting opposition groups against each other rather than unifying them against the regime. Netanyahu handed Trump a fantasy plan. Kurds rise up, regime collapses, new friendly government emerges. The reality is a fractured Kurdish opposition, a furious Iran already bombing Kurdish bases, nervous neighbors in Turkey and Iraq, and a White House publicly denying what its own CIA is reportedly doing. While the War Powers Resolution failed to pass in the Senate today, every senator is now on the record declaring whether they believe it is in our best interest to send members of our armed forces into conflict against Iran. So let's be honest with each other, this feels overwhelming. An illegal war, a destabilized Middle East, oil prices spiking, US troops in harm's way, and most of the country is just watching it unfold on their phones. But here's what's real. Public pressure has stopped wars before, and congressional pressure is the one tool that can legally constrain a president on military action. So right now, this week, here's what you can do. Call Congress. The House is planning to vote on the War Powers Resolution, I believe, tomorrow. So demand that your senators and House members oppose the war. The Congressional Switchboard phone number, I'll put in the chat. They answer it, and it takes 2 minutes to make your comments known. We can also show up. Anti-war rallies are being organized in cities nationwide. Organizations like Code Pink, Move On, and Indivisible have events posted now. Your physical presence matters more than a retweet. You can check Mobilize for events near you and search the web and social media for Iran protests and your city name, and search Reddit too. Talk to people, not to argue, but to inform. Most people aren't plugged into politics like we are, and they may not know that there was no imminent threat. Many people don't know that Congress was bypassed. Share that information in plain language, just like you heard it tonight. Support accountability journalism. Crooked Media's Pod Save America and Pod Save the World, Midas Touch Network, the New York Times, PBS NewsHour, ProPublica, and others are doing the hard work of documenting the war in real time. Subscribe and share their reporting. Also, take care of yourself and each other. Sustained activism requires sustainability. You don't have to do everything, you have to do something consistently. As I've said before, we're like a choir. When one of us needs to take a break, that's okay because the rest of us will keep singing. So go ahead and type your answers in the chat for this one. What is one concrete action you can commit to doing this week? A phone call, attending an event, having a conversation, sharing information. Let's hear it and let's hold each other to it. We got some phone calls. Sharon's gonna make a bridge banner. Lots of phone calls. That's great. Jeffrey's gonna do most of the above. That's awesome. Volunteer.
If my group home will allow it. That's the
All right.
downside.
Well, we can definitely talk about that in the discussion section. All right. So now we're gonna make a sharp pivot into our main part of tonight's discussion, climate change denial, funding cuts, and what we can do. Welcome, and let's start with a quick question for the chat. Before tonight, would you describe yourself as very worried, somewhat worried, or not very worried about climate change? All right, it looks like a lot of us are very worried. A couple people are worried. Very, very, very horrified worried, hugely worried. All right. So whatever your answer, you're in the right place. Tonight we're gonna dig into something that affects every single one of us, not just the science, but the politics, the money, and frankly, what's happening right now to the agencies that are supposed to protect us. Here's the short version. Scientists have known since 1896 that burning fossil fuels warms the planet. Oil industry executives understood it by 1959. And yet, here we are in 2026, still arguing about whether climate change is real or a hoax. Tonight, I want to explain why that argument is ongoing and, more importantly, what we can do about it. So the science is not new. As I mentioned, in 1896, the same decade the first cars were rolling down dirt roads, a Swedish scientist published a paper theorizing that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere traps heat from the sun. He got the physics essentially right. By 1959, oil industry executives at a symposium hosted by the American Petroleum Institute heard a Columbia University scientist warn them directly. Burning fossil fuels is changing our climate. They knew. This wasn't buried in a footnote, it was a keynote. The denial campaign that followed wasn't ignorance, it was a strategy. The same public relations firm that once told Americans cigarettes were safe were hired to sow doubt about climate science. The goal was never to win the scientific argument, it was to delay action long enough to keep profits flowing. 3 reasons the denial persists today. I'd organize the ongoing denial into these 3 buckets. First, anti-intellectualism. Client denial fits a long pattern of American political culture that celebrates the common sense, of regular people over scientific expertise. You see the same thing with vaccine skepticism, with attacks on universities, and now with attempts to defund our national research labs. This isn't accidental, it's cultivated. Second, money and power. Fossil fuels are one of the most profitable businesses in history, in part because companies that burn them don't pay for the damage they cause. The pollution, the health costs, the floods, and the wildfires, those costs are externalized onto all of us. Citizens United means the billionaires who profit most from this arrangement have an outside voice in our elections and our media. Fossil fuels are consumable resources with persistent, predictable demand. From a business perspective, this is a good thing. Therefore, the industry is primed to see renewable energy as an existential threat, despite what greenwash Chevron ads might lead you to believe. For example, a natural gas power plant creates a demand for its product, but once a wind turbine or solar panel is installed, it requires no economic inputs except for periodic maintenance. A key reason why fossil fuels are relatively cheap is that the costs of their use are externalized. The price you pay for gasoline reflects the cost to extract, refine, and transport that fuel, but it does not reflect the cost of dealing with the consequences of burning it. The external burden is paid by everyone in the world, with a disproportionate burden paid by the most vulnerable socioeconomic groups. In the case of grid electricity generation, the economics of renewable energy have thankfully changed. The capital cost per kilowatt hour, including installation, operation, and maintenance of land-based wind and solar, is finally competitive with, if not cheaper than, coal and natural gas. Renewables also have the benefit of zero or near zero fuel costs. Third, political short-termism. Climate change unfolds over decades. Elected officials face voters every 2, 4, or 6 years. The incentive structure pushes politicians to fix today's problems with today's money and hope the bill for tomorrow comes due on someone else's watch. Which of these three factors do you think is most responsible for blocking climate action? Anti-intellectualism, money and lobbying, or political short-termism? Drop your answer in the chat. Money, money, money. And Katie said political short-termism, lobbies, money and power. Lots of money, money and lobbying. With short-termism close behind, says Susan. So let's talk about what's happening on the ground in 2025 and 2026. Between February and June of last year, DOGE, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, fired hundreds of employees from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. NOAA runs the National Weather Service. It's the agency that tells you when a tornado is coming, tracks hurricanes, and monitors wildfires. 113 members of Congress co-signed a letter calling these firings a reckless decision that puts American lives at risk. They pointed out that in 2020 alone, NOAA's hurricane forecasting saved approximately $5 billion per major hurricane landfall. That's not government waste, that's government working. When you got the agency that forecasts storms, you aren't saving money. You're just moving the cost from the federal budget to the people who get hit without warning. The assertion that these layoffs would somehow improve efficiency is not only misleading, but outright dangerous. Efficiency is not only measured in dollars saved, but more importantly, in lives protected and disasters mitigated. NOAA saves money and American lives. At the same time, NOAA is being dismantled. FEMA, our disaster relief agency, had more than $14 billion in congressionally approved funding stuck in a pipeline. The Department of Homeland Security imposed a rule requiring Secretary Kristi Noem's personal approval for any spending over $100,000. The result was states waiting for money to rebuild after floods, fires, and storms couldn't get it. Last week, $5 billion of the backlog was finally released, but conspicuously, several states were left out. California, Illinois, Minnesota, and Colorado. If you're noticing a pattern there, you're paying attention. When FEMA money is weaponized against blue states and political opponents, the people who pay the price aren't governors or senators. It's the families who lost their homes. It's firefighters waiting for equipment. It's communities rebuilding after floods. Here in Colorado, this isn't abstract. We're we're an arid, high fire risk state, even more so this year than other years. The Colorado Strategic Wildfire Action Program just announced its largest ever investment in wildfire mitigation grants, $6.9 million. That's the state stepping in to fill a gap that the federal government is leaving. Here's the financial reality. States cannot run budget deficits. When Colorado spends 6.9 million on wildfire mitigation because FEMA funds are frozen, that money has to come from somewhere else. From schools, from roads, from mental health services. The same logic applies to disasters in other states as well. Climate change also makes our tornadoes, floods, and extreme weather events even worse. The connection between climate and wildfires is rock solid. The link to hurricane severity is well established. Even earthquakes may be affected. There's emerging research suggesting that pressure changes from additional snowmelt and precipitation can stress fault lines. None of this is speculative. It's documented and peer reviewed. Has your community been directly affected by wildfires, floods, extreme weather, or disasters in the last 5 years? Drop a yes, no, or not sure in the chat. I see a no, a few yeses, yes. Superior, yes, of course. All right. So these are things that could affect nearly any one of us, depending on our geographical location. So the National Center for Atmospheric Research, NCAR, is based right here in Boulder, Colorado. It's one of the world's premier climate and weather research institutions. It develops the weather prediction models that your phone's weather app ultimately relies on, and it trains the next generation of atmospheric scientists. In December 2025, the White House Office of Management and Budget announced it would be breaking up NCAR. Officials in the current administration have called it one of the largest sources of climate alarmism in the country and a stronghold for left-wing climate lunacy. How many people think those statements are true? All right. Nope, nope, nope. So this is not a budget disagreement. This is ideological. One of the directives of Project 2025 is to, quote, eradicate climate change references from absolutely everywhere. Dismantling NCAR is that directive made concrete. As of early 2026, the funding picture for NCAR remains deeply uncertain. Colorado senators attempted to protect its funding in the latest spending bills and failed. When you defund climate research, you don't make the climate safer. You just make yourself less prepared for what's coming. I want to tie all of this together with a concept from economics, externalized costs. A cost is externalized when a company gets to make money from an activity, but doesn't pay for the full consequences of that activity. The rest of society picks up the tab. When an oil company drills and sells gasoline, the price at the pump reflects the cost to extract, refine, and transport the fuel. It does not reflect the cost of the wildfires, floods, hurricanes, or the health problems caused by burning it. Those costs fall on all of us, but disproportionately on the most vulnerable communities and developing nations that contributed least to the problem. Historically, FEMA disaster relief is one of the ways our tax dollars have paid for those externalized costs. It's imperfect, it's reactive rather than preventative, but it's how we as a society absorb some of the damage. Now, consider what happens when FEMA funds are frozen or withheld as a political tool. NOAA is gutted, so we have less warning before disasters strike, and NCAR is dismantled, so we lose capacity to understand what's coming. What you get is a situation where oil executives continue to profit from a system in which the costs are borne by everyone else. And now, even the emergency relief fund meant to absorb those costs is being redirected or eliminated. Did you know that fossil fuel companies don't pay for most of the costs caused by burning their product? If you were surprised, somewhat aware, or already knew this, well, let us know in the chat. Sounds like most people already knew this, and not surprised. So I don't want to leave you in despair because there are real things happening and real things you can do. So let me give you a few. Legal challenges. Right now, Colorado's Attorney General and a coalition that includes environmental groups and even some utility companies are formally challenging a federal order to keep the Craig coal plant in Moffat County open past its planned closure date. The order would have raised electricity rates while locking in a dirtier power source. That challenge is in progress, it matters, and it shows that state level legal action is a real lever. Community choice energy. Community choice aggregation is a policy mechanism where a local government pools the buying power of all of its residents and businesses to negotiate better energy deals, lower prices, cleaner sources, or both. Residents are typically enrolled automatically but can opt out. Colorado is currently exploring legislation to allow CCAs. 10 states already have them, and 8, including Colorado, are exploring them. This is a tool that works at the city and county level, and local advocates can push for it right now. If your state doesn't currently allow CCAs, you can contact your local city or county government, state legislators, and governor to demand that they do. The Union of Concerned Scientists is a national nonprofit that combines scientific credibility with policy advocacy. It was formed to initiate a critical and continuing examination of governmental policy in areas where science and technology are of actual or political significance. UCS championed legislation that will help Illinois achieve its clean electricity goals and boost energy affordability amid federal attacks on clean energy. UCS advocated for Michigan utility DTE to simplify and modernize its processes, make it easier for residents to connect rooftop solar to the grid. 3 new UCS supported laws in California will save residents money and increase the amount of clean energy flowing to California's electric grid, thanks to years of analysis and advocacy from UCS Western state staff. They need members, donors, and voices. The Democratic Socialists of America have made the Green New Deal a central plank of their platform and are actively organizing at the local level. Your state legislators need to hear from you, specifically on CCA enabling legislation, wildfire funding, and any state level climate policy that's being considered in your state. I want to end this section by asking you to keep an open mind on nuclear energy. I know it's controversial, but here's the case for it. Modern reactors have an outstanding safety record. They produce zero greenhouse gas emissions, and crucially, they don't have the intermittency problem of solar and wind. The sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow, but a nuclear plant runs around the clock. Many serious analyses conclude that reaching decarbonization goals by 2050 will be extremely difficult, possibly impossible, without expanding nuclear capacity. You don't have to be fully pro-nuclear to recognize that a reflexive opposition to it may be costing us an important tool. So what's your take on nuclear energy as a part of the solution? Pro, con, or undecided? And feel free to say why in the chat in a few words. All right, Terry said no, they cost more to build. Cautiously optimistic. Cool if we're not blown up by then in World War III, according to Katie. In my backyard, waste is worrisome. Against accidents will destroy us. Gary says, I don't know enough to have an opinion. All right. Well, that is all a variety of opinions that are all equally important to hear. I want to close by zooming out. Climate change isn't primarily a science communication problem anymore. The science is settled. It's a political economy problem. It's about who pays, who profits, and who gets to decide. The attacks on NOAA, on NCAR, on FEMA funding, these aren't about efficiency. They're about making it harder to know what's coming, harder to respond when it arrives, and harder to hold anyone accountable for the damage. But we are not powerless. State attorneys are fighting back. Cities and counties can pursue community energy programs. Scientists are speaking out, and voters still have the most powerful tool of all. Pay attention to who in your state legislature is supporting CCA legislation. Pay attention to who voted to confirm officials who froze FEMA funding. Pay attention to who is trying to defund NCAR and then make noise. The final question, after tonight, what's one action you're willing to take? Contact a legislator, join or donate to an organization, look into your local CCA options, or something else. Go ahead and drop it in the chat. CCA is, let me get the exact wording, community choice aggregation. And that's where local government pools the buying power of its residents and businesses to negotiate better energy deals, which includes lower prices, cleaner sources, or both. All right, a few people are going to look into CCAs. Keep active. Call legislators, educate friends, neighbors, whatever it takes. Learn more about CCAs. Call every day as usual, but and can't get out. That's okay. The EPA has a page on CCAs. Thank you, Rob. All right. So I want to open it up to discussion. Just a reminder, let's keep our questions or comments to under 1 minute tonight. If you want to raise your hand. Otherwise, I know that Sean may have some questions from the chat.
I do. Michelle or Christine asked to please state where you're getting your references for the Iraq portion.
About Iraq or about Iran?
Or Iran, sorry.
Sure. I can. So a few of those I included in the presentation. Some sources I remember are CBS, Pod Save the World, or Crooked Media. Um, And I can include all the links. Oh, and a huge thank you to Terry and Ken for researching tonight. And they did include sources with their research. So I'll put all of those in the follow-up email that you'll get sometime this weekend.
And Laura said that she saw on ABC News Trump attacked Ecuador. How do we stop him?
Oh, I did not see that.
I guess
I
it just happened, but she
wow.
just saw it.
Okay. So the best things that we can do at this point are call Congress, and I'll put that phone number in the chat one more time, once I find it. All right, this is the congressional switchboard. Everyone can call this number and they will connect you, to your representatives and senators. And tell them we need to pass the war powers resolution right now. This is just one more example of Trump further abusing his power. And then protests. Typically, right after an attack, you might find protests on social media or other platforms. Reddit, I guess, is included in social media, but that can be a really great source. You might just look up your city protests and see if there is a Reddit group for your city and protest specifically. You can also keep an eye on our emails where we will include protests in the Denver area or Colorado. And all other suggestions in the chat are welcome.
Hey, Tiffany,
Yes.
I'm gonna just point to the way we stop him from attacking Ecuador, Iran, and Venezuela is the same way we stop him doing anything else that he doesn't have the power to do. And our government isn't doing that now. So all of the things that we've been talking about need to keep going in the same direction to remove him from power. And that's really going to be not only the best way, but the only way that we have to stop him at this point.
On that partially. But we know that once Trump is gone, now there's an entrenched fascist government, which means that Project 2025 will live on. So we're gonna have to keep fighting even after Trump is gone.
Yeah, because how do you know that JD Vance won't just take up the mantle?
Yeah, exactly. Jeffrey, was there another comment you wanted to make as well while your hand is up?
Well, can you stay on after the meeting? I want to just talk with you
Sure.
privately. And
Yep, we can do that.
another thing. If I had to make a banner, I would probably put on the hashtag send Baron. He's now at
Yeah,
that
I've
A
heard that. Yep, I've heard that one was trending.
that he should be old. Once he sees the horrors of war, then he'll probably turn against Trump.
Yep, I would agree.
I guess
And
that's why he's not being that's why Trump's not letting him join the military. He probably knows that.
yeah, exactly. Trump doesn't have to worry about his kids. Aaron, did you want to say something?
I'm good for right now.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. I'm going to take a few more questions from the chat, and then Terry, you'll be up after that.
Gary asked, why haven't articles of impeachment been authored?
You know what? That is a great question. My guess is that they haven't been introduced simply because Democrats don't think that they can win a vote. However, that's not an excuse, I think. I think they should introduce them and get every Republican on the record that they support a president that's starting illegal wars.
And he also asked how many Iranians have been killed. And I do believe that's 700 as of today.
Yeah, I did not have that number.
Yeah, I was watching earlier. I think it was 726, 28, something.
Okay,
Can I answer that person's question too? For articles of
sure.
impeachment.
Okay.
I believe they should get impeached, but there should be a punish. Even if you do escape the second part of the trial in the Senate, you should still get a punishment for impeachment, like your ability not to run for the next election.
I think that is a great idea.
And
And
Tiffany, Al Green did introduce articles of impeachment.
Oh,
So
great.
that has happened, but it is not likely to pass the House, and it's certainly going to fail in the Senate. So, but I agree with you. It's important to get people on record and show what's happening if we can get them, you know, even to vote on it. So I think that's important as well.
I'd like to give a shout out to Al Green. He lost last night in his primary, and he has been a warrior. And I'd just like to give a moment for him.
what state? What state was he in? Texas.
Yes.
That is bad news. I had not heard that.
Because I thought we won I thought we won a Democrat. Because I know we won it. We won a district in Texas, even the one that was voted by Trump. I heard that.
Did, but that was a while ago, and Al Green had a primary last night. Oh, Terry said he didn't lose. It's a runoff.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
God.
Yeah. I did hear about a runoff, but I didn't realize that was his. Terry, go ahead, if you wanted to come off mute. You're still muted, Terry.
There we go. Got it. Sorry,
All
I had to
right.
get my thing down. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to go here or not, but last night there was a thing that came out that Polis was basically saying he's now going to commute or pardon Tina Peters, and that he's changing the dates for him being able to do that because there must be some restrictions on when he can do that up to re-election or something like that. I'm not sure, but it drives me insane. I can put a phone number here to call for anybody who wants to call. That's very easy to leave a message for Polis and such if you'd like.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please do. This is the weirdest issue. I don't know why Polis wants to commute her sentence except to win favor with Trump. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Can I say
It doesn't.
something? Oh, I thought you
Uh,
were done. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that because I've been looking at this a lot. That it's hard to understand why he's doing it. I mean, he wasn't allowed to the governor's meeting. Him and the guy from Maryland wasn't allowed to the governor's meeting with Trump. He's been bugging him a lot, but I'm just wondering if there's something else like data center purchases or something else going on somewhere because it just doesn't make any sense at all. But
It doesn't.
uh,
The only thing I can think of is Trump. I think I can't remember. There was an executive order about a water project in eastern Colorado.
yeah, I
And
think
maybe
that's
he's
already
trying
been
to.
kind of fixed. I
Oh,
think that was
okay.
already fixed by the Congress.
No, by the
That was
state.
already
We're
fixed
going
by
to pay for it.
Congress, and we've been able to get around just about everything with the courts. So it just doesn't make sense. But anyways, I'll shut up now.
You're good, Terry.
Susan
All right,
wanted to say
next,
something in the chat.
Susan.
You know, we need something to counteract Project 2025. Maybe like Project Renewal 2029.
Don't forget to raise your hand so we can go in order. Sean, let's use some more questions from the chat.
Sorry.
Well, this one was kind of answered for Michelle, who is behind Project 2025. A lot of people answered her. That would be the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, so that came out of the Heritage Foundation. I believe you would call them a conservative think tank or the ultimate fascist of fascist land.
Can I say something about that, the Heritage Foundation, real quick?
Not yet. We're gonna go through a few more questions that came in from the chat much earlier, and then I will call on you.
Laura said, if things don't change soon, we won't be able to restore our democracy. What can we do differently to bring about change? How do we get more folks to rise up?
Can I answer
Well,
that one?
nope. You gotta wait until it's your turn because these people posted their questions in the chat a while ago. So what more can we do to rise up? You want to address that one, Morgan?
Sure. I would make the argument that we're already past that point of no return. And right now, what we need to do is use the power of the people to stand up and fight. And then once we're able to knock down the pillars of support and remove the regime of power, I agree, it's not just Donald Trump who needs to go. It needs to be him, JD Vance, everybody who's enabled him and all of the Republicans that haven't stood up against him. Once that happens, we're going to need to rebuild everything. We're going to need to reimagine how our government works because what we had established before has been irrevocably broken. We were talking about NCAR and the EPA and FEMA before. All of those agencies, including things like USAID that literally saves lives by feeding people, are broken now, and we're deliberately broken. So we need to look past where this ends and reimagine everything that we have done. I see it as an enormous opportunity to do things that we have never thought about or have never been politically possible. Things like tying the minimum wage to the poverty level so that if you're working 40 hours a week, you will never be below the minimum that you need to survive. But really, there there's no election that's going to undo what's been done, and there's no way that even if the Democrats sweep everything in 2026 and win the presidency in 2028, that it'll ever go back to the way it was. So I think it's time for the people to take matters into their own hands and make the change that we want to see.
I put a link to the Pillars of Support meetings
You're
that
not,
we had.
you're
We
not
all
talking about
can,
starting a civil war, are you?
no, we're
No.
not talking about any kind of violence. When we say fight, we mean politically.
Oh, looks like Tiffany's having some internet problems. Sean, do you have any more questions?
Percy asked what we could do with the waste.
Okay, that's a good question. I am very ambivalent about nuclear energy. I lived miles away from 3 Mile Island when it blew up. Um, and what we can do with the waste is they have been developing technology for thorium mini reactors, things that can fit in a shipping container, that can use the waste and produce more energy with it as it decays into other elements, that can then be reused almost infinitely. So at the very least, that will minimize the waste and extend the amount of time that it can be used. Would I like to not use nuclear energy? Yes. But the reality is, with the needs for energy that we have, a small amount of nuclear in a otherwise environmentally friendly plan may be a least bad option than continuing to burn coal and natural gas. So it has risk because if things go wrong, they go catastrophically wrong. But the safeguards are getting better and the use for the waste is improving. If it's something that we focus on doing, we can find ways to do it. The technologies are there to do it safely, but it's not something I would advocate as replacing all of our energy needs. I think it needs to be a small part to supplement everything else to minimize that risk and minimize the waste.
Okay. Susan also said that she was at something where Pelosi spoke, and he made it pretty clear he was doing this and using her health and age as the reason for the pardon or commuting or whatever it is.
Let me drop an article in the chat that I was just skimming over.
Also, John, who was our guest for the People's Whistleblower campaign, let us know that it is live now.
I was just thinking about that.
Yep, he said it's live right now.
Uh, yeah, hey, thanks for that. And we're it's able to accept signatures, and we are uh, we're happy to have people go to peopleswhistleblower.org, the website, and check it out. So the key feature, the thing that makes this very different than writing a letter to Congress, is that this is a list of 24, more than 24 complaints of corruption, crimes, and wrongdoing by Trump and the White House, and then the complaint goes formally, meaning it's like served like a legal document to every member of Congress, not just those that are in my zip code. So those are the things that are unique. To our knowledge, this has never been done before. So um, it's also something of an experiment, but it only makes sense if we get a lot of signatures. So thanks for that, and thanks for flagging that, Gary. Or I'm not sure who flagged it, but
I
Sean.
did.
I also put the link in the chat, peopleswhistleblower.org.
And
All right.
that's about all that I have.
Okay, Jeffrey,
Other
go
than
ahead.
Claire would like to
Oh,
find out where overpass sign waving projects are going on.
yeah, Claire, are you in Colorado?
There you go. Yes, I am.
Okay. Are you on Signal?
No, I haven't
Okay,
got it fired up on my
that's
phone
okay.
yet.
If you are, I can add you to the Colorado Bridge Trolls channel, where you'll see all of their protests. Other than that, we do send out all of the ones that we know about in our emails. So keep an eye out for the emails from Solidarity Warriors and scroll down to the upcoming events section. I know there are also a couple of like street corner sign waving protests in the weekly events. And the overpass protest, you can also I know if you Google Visibility Brigade, let me see if I can find their website real quick. You can fill out a form there and get connected with your local group.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Tiffany, the bridge trolls go out about twice a week, right? How
In
often do
the
they?
summer, they go out like 2 to 3 times a week. We do have a bi-weekly protest with the bridge trolls on the Highlands Bridge in Denver. It's the big pedestrian overpass, so we can fit a couple hundred people on there. So help us get a couple hundred people out. Our next one is on March 14th, and that's from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. on the Highlands Bridge. I'll drop the address you can use for GPS in the chat. And we're not going to do one on March 28th because that is when No Kings 3 is happening. So following March 14th, the next one will be on April 11th. All
I
right,
can't
Jeffrey.
I can't even join a No Kings movement, No Kings protest because of my group home that I'm in.
That's okay. There are lots of things you can do from home.
Like what?
Sometimes there are online protests. If you go to mobilize.org, I'm not sure if you'll see any yet, but they may come up closer to the event. But go to mobilize. Oh, it's not .org. I think it's mobilize.us. And then you can set filters to search for events that are virtual only. And then, yeah, looks like there is a virtual No Kings. So do that and look for a virtual No Kings that you can join from home. A lot of them
Uh,
are live streamed for things like that.
we also need something that reverse the damage caused by Project 2025. How about how about the name Project Renewal 2029?
I like that.
If you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
And and we need to keep it. We need not only need to keep track of. We need to watch APAC, but we also there's a Twitter place called APAC Tracker. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I've heard of that.
We need something on Twitter called Heritage Foundation Tracker.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, we need
I know that there are websites out there that show um, which parts of Project 2025 have been implemented. And I'll see if I can find one. Aaron, go ahead.
Jeffrey, you got your Know Your Rights cards, right?
yeah,
And then have you gotten your whistles yet?
yeah, I got those too.
All right, so you've got two things that are going to be awesome. You can pass those out to friends at the group home. If you go out on trips with your mom, you can pass them out to people, and you can organize your own little thing at the group home. Like you can make signs. I can send you some templates that you could put on your door. You can do whatever you want, but definitely check out the visibility event and let me know, and I'll send you live video from ours in Tulsa.
Please do, because I basically can't take a part in any protests.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know, and you don't want to piss off the group home. So just do whatever you can, but you're in a good position to let other people know about it, and they can possibly watch the live event with you.
like by uploading the video.
Yeah.
I also
Hmm.
put a link to Free Speech TV in the chat. They will live stream multiple No Kings protests. So go to their website and click on the link to watch their live stream on the 28th, and they'll have lots of coverage of different events. So maybe you can get a group together at the group home and watch that together. And I love the idea, Aaron, to make signs too.